This is scary, guys. I mean, we've been talking about the supervolcano Campi Flegrei. That's near Naples. And basically, Campi Flegrei's brother, I don't want to say big brother because they're both huge in different ways. Campi Flegrei is spread out a caldera that spans 100 kilometers. Vesuvius is a volcano as you would imagine a volcano. Both are one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world. And Vesuvius is rumbling, guys. So we've talked about Campi Flegrei. That's rumbling as well. And evacuation plans are being rehearsed right now. We're talking about roughly 3 million people between these two volcanoes and around these two volcanoes. And they're settling right on the volcano. In Campi Flegrei, they're settling right around the caldera, on the caldera. The fishing town of Pozzuoli basically sits right on top of it. But it's Campi Flegrei is also stretching into the sea, where it could cause a huge explosive eruption with a tsunami as high as 100 feet or 30 meters. So super scary. That's the one. Check out the video that could change the world, with a little ice age spewing its ashes kilometers high in the atmosphere, causing food shortages because nothing's growing. The radius of 800 kilometers would be covered in ash. But you know how it was 2010 in Iceland when the volcano erupted, and that little guy was interrupting airplanes and stuff like this. So if a super volcanic eruption's happening at Campi Flegrei, that will be bad. But there's Vesuvius as well. So imagine these poor people that live between these two giants. And what is Vesuvius doing? Unfortunately, it's doing something similar to Campi Flegrei. So the earthquake activity that's happening at Vesuvius right now is above average, so way above average. So if you look at a scale from 1 to 10, it's in the red zone at 10. So what do we have? In the past 7 days at Mount Vesuvius, it had 44 quakes of magnitudes up to 3.9, and that's quite high for volcanic activity. So don't compare it with the earthquakes that we've just seen in Japan and Taiwan, like 6 or 7 magnitude. No, these volcanoes, it tells you something. If anything, that's above 2 already tells you something. So the volcano that's erupting right now in Iceland, we've saw earthquake swarms between like microseism 1 and maybe 2. 2 was considered higher already, and then it erupted because it tells us magma is trying to grind through the surface, finding its way. But with Vesuvius, we know where it's going to come up, right? In that crater, and then it's going to be explosive. So we had 2 quakes above magnitude 3 in the last 7 days, 3.9 the highest. 3 quakes between magnitude 2 and 3, and 39 quakes below magnitude 2. So what would happen if Mount Vesuvius did erupt right now? And it's, guys, just to make that clear, it's not a question of if, it's just a matter of when. So this guy will erupt again. Geologists and volcanologists who are studying this volcano on a regular basis, they're telling us that Vesuvius is overdue for an eruption. And isn't this scary, guys? So many areas around the world are overdue for something, a volcanic eruption or a big earthquake. I'm sitting on the Cascadia Fault. That will create probably an earthquake magnitude 9 or 10, and it's overdue. So Vesuvius is overdue for an explosion. We're not talking eruption, explosion. This will be massive. And that's why there's an observatory that's called the Vesuvius Observatory. It monitors Vesuvius seismic activity, also the gas emissions, and of course other indicators 24 hours a day, so that they know the earliest point when it might blow. Because as we just said, so many people live in that area. Check out these maps. It's completely densely populated areas, and the people there are not the richest. They're quite poor, so they can't afford to just say, it's rumbling, that sounds dangerous, let's just move somewhere else. No, they can't. Many homes are like old homes, like really, really old like stone homes. They're not built to any code. I mean, if there's a larger earthquakes for them, they will crumble, they will collapse, and they will close down every evacuation route. So they have been passed on for centuries in the family, so people can't just leave. They don't have the money. There's not much industry in Naples. Yeah, it's great for tourists now. It used to be very dangerous. But of course, the food is great and pizza Napoli. Yeah, we know all that. But for the residents, this can be a nightmare, an absolute disaster, because you cannot outrun this guy, this volcano. So Vesuvius is known for his nearly instantaneous decimation of neighboring towns in the past, Pompeii and Herculaneum in AD 79. You know, remember these statues, Pompeii, it was completely covered in ashes like this, right? So Vesuvius is one of the world's most dangerous volcanoes. There's basically only at the base of the volcano, in direct proximity of the volcano, there's 18 towns and roughly like 700 people that are, I don't want to say it, but you know what I mean, guys, right? So these are called the red zones. That's the populated area that would bear the biggest brunt of an eruption of Vesuvius. And they're directly in the line of fire, but that's basically the direct line of fire is a 9-mile or 12-kilometer radius. And that's massive, guys. That is massive. So it takes you about 10 to 12 minutes if you have a good road where you can drive a little bit faster, but get out of narrow grids to drive 12 kilometers. Wow. And then there's congestion, so evacuating. And that's why in the town of Pozzuoli, the taking of anti-anxiety medication is on the rise, because people are not even taking it because of the imminent eruption that might be hanging over them. No, they're taking it because they're so scared of a potential evacuation. And I'm sure people that live around Vesuvius feel the same. I want to make this clear again so that you understand the gravity of this, and that's why we need to talk about this. So the direct line of fire, that's this radius of like 12 kilometers, 9 miles. These people unfortunately stand little chance of survival when Vesuvius explodes again. And that's horrible, guys. That's absolutely horrible, because Vesuvius, he primarily erupts andesite. That's a volcanic rock with a silica content of around 53 to 63%. And that type of lava leads to explosive eruptions. Not like what we're seeing in Iceland right now, a fissure opens and then the lava comes out. It did spill up to like 50 to 100 meters, but it looked peaceful compared to Vesuvius. So Vesuvius is particularly unpredictable, guys, and a super hazardous volcano. And that's next to Campi Flegrei. I have to say it again because Campi Flegrei is the same thing. You know, we're all talking about Yellowstone and how devastating that will be. Campi Flegrei is the same thing. So, because the threat is imminent, as it is overdue, and it is unpredictable, the Italian government has devised an evacuation plan to clear out the red zones, ideally 72 hours before an impending volcanic eruption. But the science is not super advanced to really make these predictions. We've seen it in Iceland right now. Check out my Iceland playlist if you want to see more about that. It's still a guessing game because we can't look into the core of the earth. We can't really say where the magma is, and sometimes it happens so quickly. So scientists are saying we know more about the surface of the moon than we know what's going on underneath the earth's crust. So 72 hours warning, that would be an ideal scenario, but it's not very likely, guys. It's not likely. So that's why they began already back in 2004 to set up a government program to pay people 30,000 euros, that's roughly $46,000, to relocate outside of that red zone to try to empty out that zone. But the problem is, what are you doing with $46,000? That doesn't get you very far, and you probably won't get a buyer for your home in the red zone. So $46,000, yeah, right? Is your life worth that? Yes, but you need to. Are you then homeless? That doesn't get you very far in Europe, and also not in Italy. So they have set up that program, but expectedly, there were few takers. There were not many people who did this. So it hasn't really worked. So we still have roughly 700,000 people in the red zone around Vesuvius. And here it comes. Experts warn that evacuation plans should also include the nearby areas of Naples. That's roughly 3 million people. Imagine when you see Vesuvius erupt and the ashes are coming, right? There's going to be a panic. The streets will be clogged. No one will get out. We've seen it in Kiev when the Russians came and they were sending rockets towards the capital. People were trying to get out and they were kind of like still calm. They were not in a panic as if you'd be if you see the black smoke and not the ashes falling on you. But the highways were clogged. Cars were standing. And history shows us this has always been the case. This has been the case in World War II. People had to walk along the roads. So this is really dire, because Vesuvius will send dangerous burning hot ash and pumice, these little lava rocks that are coming out as far as 20 kilometers. That's 12 miles. And that could cause fires. Naples could burn down. It's a bad scenario, and it's not fear-mongering, guys. This is overdue, and it's going to happen. So Mount Vesuvius, what kind of volcano is that? It's considered a stratovolcano. So he possesses steeper slopes, right? You can see this on the picture, and it has a more conical shape compared to shield volcanoes, for example. And Vesuvius originates from thick adhesive lava that has been caused by pyroclastic flows that doesn't spread smoothly. As a result, this lava accumulates around the opening of that, creating that crater. We see it in Iceland right now, the fissure that has erupted on March 16th. The lava was super liquid, and in a few hours it made its way almost 4.5 kilometers towards the defense walls of the Blue Lagoon, the power plant, and the defense walls of Grindavik. But this one is more thick, so it creates this massive mountain that we now see, Mount Vesuvius. So it's called Sommervolcano, and sometimes it's referred to as Sommian. And it represents a volcanic caldera that has been partially overlaid with a fresh central cone. So Mount Vesuvius is located in a region that's called Campania, Naples, right? And it's about 9 kilometers, so 5.6 miles east of Naples. And Vesuvius sits in an area that's called the Campanian Volcanic Arc. Well, Campi Flegrei, right? But there's a series of volcanoes that emerged due to a subduction zone. And what did Vesuvius do in the past, so that you get a little bit of an impression of what's to come? And again, we have to be realistic about this, guys. We can't just sit there and say, and I know that feeling. I'm sitting on the Cascadia Fault. I'm thinking about this. I'm preparing. I'm aware. But then, of course, you're always hoping, well, maybe it's not going to happen in my lifetime. The same with wars. People in the Second World War thought, well, it's not going to be so bad. The bad Austrian guy with the mustache, he's not going to do that. And then he did that, right? Or earthquakes, like devastating earthquakes, tsunamis that have happened, that have been devastating. It is happening, although our human nature is kind of trying to push this away. Oh yeah, don't exaggerate. It's not going to be that bad. Look around the world. Look at what's happening and look at what happened. It is happening. And that's why we need to be aware and we need to know about this. So in August AD 79, it has began, guys. And 19 hours later, after Vesuvius has erupted, the two wealthy Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum were almost erased from history. What were the signs of this incoming blast? Wasn't really big, guys, and that's what I've been talking about. We're not waiting for a 7 magnitude or 6 magnitude earthquakes. Before Vesuvius was showing them what he can do, the signs included a minor earthquake and underground water sources running out a few days prior. So, and then a plume of smoke was rocketing up into the air 20 miles straight up. That's 32 kilometers into the atmosphere, spewing its blistering hot contents up there. There was only one eyewitness who wrote down what happened. Pliny the Younger, as he's called. He compared the smoke that was shooting up from Mount Vesuvius to an umbrella pine tree. So that was the iconic feature of a Plinian eruption. So what happened then? So very, very soon, the city was engulfed in smoke and, of course, toxic volcanic gases coming from the mountain. And although most people were able to escape Pompeii, at least 2,000 people who stayed behind were crushed or buried alive in the ash and in rock, or they were entombed by the volcanic mud that rained down from the sky and that poured down from the mountain that day. So 2,000 people. But think about, we have way more population there right now than than ancient Pompeii did have. What happened to Herculaneum? So on the other side of the mountain, at the Bay of Naples, the seismic event traveled to Herculaneum. And in addition to clouds of ash and rock came a heat wave of almost 900 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 480 degrees Celsius. So that's when you boil a chicken in the oven, guys, or you prepare a pizza. That's how hot it is. And, thankfully at that time, many were able to escape the wrath of Vesuvius, but also at that time, they found 80 bodies, seemingly like frozen in time. They were killed instantly by extreme thermal rock, like as if Medusa had looked at them, like turned into stone. So that eruption in 79 AD has buried Herculaneum with 75 feet, that's 22 meters, of ash. Pompeii remained under about 9 feet, so 2.7 meters of ash. What followed was that the area surrounding Mount Vesuvius was uninhabitable for centuries after this explosion. And the stunning fact is, because of the fine dust and the speed at which the ashes was blown and fell, Pompeii in particular was, for the most part, preserved intact. And that's like a wonder of nature. So we see architectural elements, artifacts, and the hundreds of bodies, they stood unchanged until they were discovered in recent days and excavated. I wonder what the geologists and archaeologists thought when they found these, I call them like Medusa bodies there. It's just amazing. So what the archaeologists didn't know at that time is that they just learned this more recently. Like I said, this science is still evolving. It's not very far. Was that this famous eruption was not the first and also not the largest of Mount Vesuvius. So about 3,780 years ago, it burst open with even more power, converting thousands of miles of landscape into desert for more than 200 years. And that's the magnitude that's what we're talking about here, right? Thousands of miles and even more thousands of kilometers. And Campi Flegrei can do the same. And that's why experts are saying the whole world will be in trouble. There might be only food for 74 days because everything's covered with ashes. The sunlight is blocked from reaching the earth. There'll be a mini ice age. You can't grow anything. Because that's why I'm saying we're worried about, how far we're driving with our car or what we're doing or what the cow farts. It's all doesn't matter because this will come. It will come. There's so many volcanoes rumbling. They will probably solve the issue. I'm not going to say the word because whatever. I don't want to turn this into a discussion about this, but I think you get the point, guys. So for more than 200 years, thousands of kilometers wide were turned into desert, and that was referred to as the Avellino eruption. And this one, of course, caught thousands of inhabitants by surprise as well. And archaeologists have discovered deeply embedded footprints in the surrounding area. And then there was a 1631 eruption that has killed 4,000 people and has destroyed six villages. So at that time, it was already more densely populated. So we're talking about 4,000 people. And in modern times, and that's the scary part, guys, only one minor eruption occurred in 1944, resulted only in 26 fatalities, thankfully. Mount Vesuvius right now is a ticking time bomb. And so is Campi Flegrei that lies next to it. And so is the whole area that lies there. And this can affect whole Europe, North America, the whole world. We know that about Yellowstone. But let me know, guys, did you know that? Were you aware of that? When you were as a tourist in Italy eating the spaghetti or the pizza Napoli, did you know that? Let me know in the comments, guys. And if you're interested in topics like this, first of all, please leave this video a like so that we can push it out or share it with your friends that might be interested. That helps me a lot. And check out my Campi Flegrei playlist or check out Iceland if you're interested in that. Subscribe. I would like to see you again. I'm trying to convince you to subscribe, guys. I don't know if you have noticed, but it would be awesome. So thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you very soon with an update about what's going on in Iceland, because they have a scenario going there right now that Iceland has never seen before, and it has never been documented in the whole world either. There's a current eruption, but the magma chamber underneath is filling up as well. So usually it's like it's filling up, and then there's an eruption, then the eruption dies down and it's filling up again, and then there's another. No! So we're waiting for the next event. They're saying within the next 40 hours. What is going to happen? It's a little bit scary, guys. Stay tuned. I see you very soon. Bye-bye.